Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Poddin My Noggin. This week, we are joined by a special guest, Terry Pets. And Terry and Pets and I have done this before. You haven't seen it, however. It's we did this about, I think, close to 2 weeks ago. And then I discovered while editing that the audio just didn't work. So, because of that, we are back again today to redo our interview. So, welcome back again, Terry.
Thank you. I hope everything's gonna be okay on the technological side of things today.
Yes, me too. But sometimes um, they're just things that happens because two things happened the last time. If you remember, my video stopped working midway through our conversation and we had to leave and then come back. And then because of some other technical difficulties, the audio just was not working either. So I think it was the universe stating Terry and CK has to spend at least another hour together. Um, so, Terry, I now know a lot about you. So, but the people at home don't. So, I want to start back at the beginning. So, one of the things that you had mentioned to me initially was how you had retired from a stressful job, and you wanted to be able to focus on your writing and hosting writing workshops. Talk about that with us. What was that experience like?
Well, scary because I've been working for 43 years,
Okay.
pretty much nonstop. Have done many things in my life, moved to a few different places, but I've always worked. And then suddenly, I'm not working. And I was partly relieved because it gave me the freedom to do the things I wanted to do, but also partly scared because, oh, what am I going to do next? And I had my plans, but I started to work it slowly, and I started to set things up for the workshops, and I'm still in the process of doing it properly because there's a lot of behind the scenes work. But I enjoy it. I enjoy every minute of it. And I also started a Substack where I share my writing and sometimes my videos. And I love doing that as well. So basically, I'm focusing on sharing what I consider my gifts and my talents with people much more than I have before.
I love that. And was there a particular catalyst when you were working that sort of you just kind of like felt the pull, felt the draw to just say, you know what, enough's enough. I'm going to retire. I'm going to pour into myself. Was there something that particularly happened?
Yes, I burnt out on the job.
Okay.
And I didn't know what hit me because I've never experienced that. And then afterwards, I was on medical leave for about almost 4 months. And in the 4 months, I was able to look at my life, look at what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, how it affects me. And it, and then I listened to a podcast, and I don't remember what it was, but the lady in the podcast was giving you a list of the symptoms of burnout, and I thought, oh my God, I had every one of them.
Burnout is very real.
Oh, it is very real, and it hits you. And as I said earlier, if you don't know what it's like, you don't even know what you're dealing with.
It's interesting, really, because I think that there's two things here. It's the fact that our bodies, minds, and souls can go a really long time without a checkup, a tune up, if you will, just like a car. It will start, it'll run, it won't run optimally. But eventually, your body's going to say, your mind's going to say, and your heart's going to say, enough. And you're going to be forced into resting
Yeah.
because things don't function the way that they used to. And for me, burnout, I experienced it in 2021. It hit me hard. I have always been a workaholic in a big way. I always give 150, 200% to any job I'm in. I would work 70, 80 hours in a week, right? Now it was desk work, but when you're working at a desk and you're dealing with complex problems and issues and things like that, doesn't feel as physically demanding as it would as if you were out like farming or things like that. But it's mentally draining. So like that burnout is real. So you experienced burnout, and that provided you an opportunity to reflect.
Yeah. To reflect on how much longer I can do this. And basically, I think what happens is when you go into a regular job, you don't pay attention to your body. You don't do the things that are optimal for your body. You do the things that are necessary to get the job going and satisfy your customers or your employers. But when you're working on your own and you set your own schedule, you can listen to your inner rhythm a lot better than you would when you're obligated to show up at a certain time and be there until a certain time.
Mm.
Yeah,
But then when it also comes with its own sort of issues, right?
of
Because
course.
on the one hand, when you're working for the man, if you will, um, you if you show up this time, you leave this time, you're getting this much money, right? And it's sort of like it's sort of like a guarantee. I'm going to air quote it because it's not always guaranteed, but yes, it's sort of like a guarantee. So the element of if you're lucky enough to have a position where it meets your basic necessities and your bills and things like that, you have that sort of guarantee where you're like, okay, every 2 weeks or twice monthly or once a month, I'm going to get this paycheck, and so that's a component of life that you don't have to really think too much about because you know that if you do A, B, and C, you're going to get your paycheck. So you left that world for your overall physical health. Now you're into your world where you're pouring into yourself and you're doing things to fill your cup and the stuff that you love. But then there's that other side, correct?
Yeah. The other side is setting it up because now you have to work on your schedule. You have to set up the logistics. You have to set up the sales pages, the Instagram posts, the Facebook posts, and coordinate all of that. Basically, you have to be your own manager. And besides providing the programs and the content you want to provide, and some days I really wish I had an assistant who was in that kind of area. That would be their expertise and their strength to set things up so I can go out there and fly high. But I have to do it. And as you're being self-employed, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's everything has at least two sides to it.
Absolutely. And I think
Yes.
we lose that guarantee as well, right? So, we
Yes.
spend so much time investing in ourselves and pouring into ourselves. And for me, it was, being packaged out and then starting this podcast, writing my book, and all of that stuff. But the guarantee of a paycheck vaporizes. And you're
Yes.
like, okay, well, am I going to have enough to sustain myself long term? So I think that's when you have to be consistent, show up, believe that this is what you're meant to be doing and that it's going to work out. Right. And so that's my segue into Terry Peck's post retirement. What is Terry doing now to, and you mentioned it already, but I want to get into it. So what is it that Terry does now to as a business, as a way to live her dreams, live in her truth, and help others, because I there's a theme here that we'll talk about a little bit later as well. But
Well, just like you, I'm a recovering workaholic. And similar to you, I give 150%. And if you check with my former coworkers, they'll tell you. I just went to see some of them a few days ago, and one of the guys, young guys, said, "We love you and we miss you, but don't come back." It's tough. It's tough. It's tough to be in especially in retail or basically in any field now. So I'm glad I'm not there. Now, why was I talking about this? Oh yes. So I always wanted to help people. That was one of my specialties. And now I think I came to a point where I'm going to help them in a different way than I used to. And one of the things that I discovered when I was doing open mics, poetry open mics, and I've done that for the last 6 years, what I discovered is that when people come and share their poetry and share their inner struggles, their feelings, the things that give them joy or pleasure or pain and grief, when they share that, they feel better. And then they feel heard because people witnessed what they had to say. So they feel heard. They feel connected because people give them support during this or after this. And sometimes there's continuing conversations afterwards. And I discovered the healing power of poetry and words.
so I want to pause right there because I want to talk about this really briefly. So anyone located in Alberta and also near Lethbridge, if I'm not wrong, right? Lethbridge.
Yeah.
There is the name is escaping me now. I know it's got owl in it because I love owls. We had this conversation. But what is the name of the bar?
It's called Owl Acoustic Lounge.
The Owl Acoustic Lounge. So, as I showed you last time, and people at home, if you haven't noticed already, I have a lot. You're only seeing a few of them. They have a lot of different sort of. This is a glasses a holder. That's an owl. I have owls everywhere throughout my house. And so when I saw this, when you sent it to me, I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, so this lounge has an open mic night. When does it happen?
Every fourth Wednesday of the month.
Every fourth Wednesday of the month. And the premise is
Well, even from minute one when I started it, I wanted it to be all inclusive. I wanted everybody to feel safe, heard, seen, and that's the premise. That's the baseline of it. We don't leave room for hate speech. We don't leave room for judgments. If you come there, you have to respect everybody and act in a respectful way with everybody. And that's the basics of it. And what happens is that people come and they share whatever they feel comfortable sharing. They get 5 minutes to read their poems, and then they're done, and then it's the next person's turn, and they get 5 minutes. Through the 6 years, I've seen a lot of bonding. I've seen a lot of good friendships developing, and for a long time, my motto is that poetry is the language of the heart. I think poetry really brings together people together on a heart level.
I think if someone is reading their poetry aloud in front of a group of people, I think that's one of probably the most vulnerable places someone can put themselves in on purpose. You know what I mean? Like just opening themselves up, showing a side of them that was once very private and intimate between them and paper or computer. We don't want to leave out people who don't use paper, like any device that you write on. But so I agree with you that poetry is very much the language of the heart in the sense because it comes from such a deep sort of place. over the 6 years that you've been doing it, what's your show up like? Is it, do you get a lot of volume from people? I'm assuming you also get a lot of regulars as well.
Yes, there's always the regulars, and we're always thrilled when new people show up because we like the diversity.
I
Uh,
love it.
Typically, it's between 15 and 25 people.
That's that's amazing.
It
If
is.
I'm ever in Lethbridge, the fourth Wednesday of a month, I'm going to stop in.
I hope you will.
Um, just to witness. Who knows? Maybe I'll prepare one of my poems to read as well. But that would be, as I think we discussed last times, that would be a big thing for me to get up in front of someone and read my poetry. But now there was something you had mentioned last time. This is also picked up by your local. Um, there's a local channel that picks up these nights.
Yes, it's called. It's part of Rogers. It used to be Shaw, but Rogers bought Shaw. Shaw
Okay.
used to be on the west. You may or may not have heard about them on the east. But now Rogers owns what used to be Shaw, but they still have a community channel. And the local guy, who's the one and only, he's a one-man show. His name is Ryan. He comes and he records the whole event, and then he puts it on community channel, on TV, and also on YouTube for us.
I love this. And
Yes,
what's the YouTube called?
tell it like it is, poets.
Yes, which I will link in the description on all the podcasts and also on YouTube so that anybody's listening can actually go view it. I think that that's fantastic. So then we're looking at, it's inclusive. Have you had any incidents where people have been judgmental or not so friendly?
Nothing too bad and too major. And I think people are really, I think they're really clear that they're supposed to be nice and supportive to each other. And they've all been up on that stage bearing their souls. They know
Mm,
what it feels like to be standing there feeling naked or vulnerable. But at the same time, it's also very empowering.
yes.
Yes,
I can only imagine how empowering it is
yes,
actually
yes,
to be open like that. Now,
yes,
so you've been doing that for 6 years and you decided through your burnout phase that you wanted to do more with poetry and writing.
yes.
And one of the things I remember that, you know, you said to me when you filled out my form, I said, "What is your messaging to others?" And you had said, "I will answer this with a poem I wrote." And it says, "Stand tall." I'm going to read it aloud if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Um, Stand tall. Never let anything bring you down. Walk straight. Never let anyone get you off your course. Plan ahead, but do not worry about the future. Spread your wings. Fly to the highest heights. Reach the stars. Live a full life. Let your instinct guide you. It will always take you where you need to go. It's a beautiful poem, right?
Beautifully. Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you. Um, so that's your messaging to the world, is to stand tall and to just do what I get from that is just be you. Loudly, proudly, unapologetically, just be you. And I think that that's something we need to hear more in this world at this time, is that we need to live authentically and be who we are. So now you do workshops. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Over the time, probably even when I was young, I probably wasn't so conscious of it when I was young, but I've always been writing. And I've discovered that writing is it can be very therapeutic and healing. And I've done a lot of writing, and I've written many things that I didn't share with anybody because it wasn't something I would have wanted to share. Sometimes I'd burn what I wrote. Sometimes I'd rip it into little pieces and throw it in the wind. I've done that with a girlfriend once. We were going to throw our writing into the river or the lake, but everything was frozen. But it was a windy day, so we ripped it into little pieces and let it go in the wind, and the wind took it away. It was very therapeutic. We were doing a cleansing exercise or whatever we called it. I've also been in workshops and writing groups with people that were and the groups were a little smaller and a little more intimate. And I've discovered that when you're in a place where you feel like you can trust the people you're with, and you write down your feelings and you work things out that you haven't worked out before, and you share it in a safe setting, it's very therapeutic. It's a very healing, and you release those things that were stuck inside of you, sometimes even for years and years and years. So then I figured I should use this and offer workshops for people, because I know there are so many people who struggle with anxiety, struggle with and I keep going back. Those stories are stuck inside of them, and the stories want to come out, but they don't know how to bring them out. So I wanted to offer workshops for people to do exactly that. Work on the things, the stories that want to come out of you. Do it in a safe and supportive setting. Release them if you feel, share them if you feel comfortable sharing them, and if you don't feel comfortable sharing them, get rid of it one way or another that makes you feel good and makes you feel safe.
So how long are these workshops?
They're 2.5 hours, and I offered them in person in Lethbridge, and I also offer them on Zoom.
Okay, and so for anybody listening for on Zoom, when do they happen?
They happen every first and every third, not Wednesday, sorry, Tuesday of the month.
Every first and third Tuesday of the month, okay?
And the live, the in-person ones are every second and every fourth Tuesday of the month.
Okay, so for anybody in Lethbridge or near, you can go to the live one on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month.
Yeah.
And for anybody who's not around, you can join Zoom the first and third Tuesday of the month. And what times are they?
They are at 6 p.m. Mountain Time.
Okay, so that would be 8 p.m. Eastern time, right?
I believe so. I believe there's 2 hours difference between Easter. Yes.
So in this workshop, so let's just pretend I'm showing up to this workshop on Zoom. What do we do in the workshop?
Well, we talk about what everybody needs in order to feel safe and supported. I introduce the different methods that people can use. They can either write a poem, they can write a letter, or they can write a story, whatever calls to them. But I encourage people to make it about their feelings, how they feel, what happened to them, what they need to work on, what something that they want to focus on. It's not how beautiful the weather. It's about how you feel inside. What somebody got you upset. How did that feel? How did you handle it? How would you like to handle it? What would you like to say to that person if you were face to face to them? And there are there are things, there are there are things that happen to people, and they can't address the person who did things to them. Um, when it comes to violence and so many other things that crosses somebody's boundary, they can't go and talk directly to somebody, but they can talk to that person as if that person was sitting next to them through the writing, and it's almost as good as it would be if if they did it in person and the person said, "I'm sorry for what I did."
Because they're channeling.
Exactly. They're channeling their feelings, they're getting their feelings out, they're putting it on paper, and it's no longer inside of them.
And so, okay, so I come and I choose to write a letter about my feelings. And then what's next? Do we review them, or is that a part of it?
Not really reviewing, because this is not writing for publication. What we do is whoever feels safe and comfortable sharing their stuff, they can share it with the group. Now with Zoom, if I have a larger group, I'm probably going to get into chat rooms. So there will be smaller groups to talk about their stuff, and then they can all do it at the same time. In person, there are people who don't want to share and they just say, "I pass. I don't want to share." And that's okay.
So there's no expectation
No,
to share. But I'm assuming they can share with you privately if they wanted to.
they can certainly do that. And some people would feel probably more comfortable sharing afterwards or in a private setting. I was also thinking I'm sure there are people who would like to write about their feelings, but they don't want to do it in a group setting. So I'm thinking of even doing one-on-one sessions with people who require that.
I like that. And then, so if I've written a letter, when you're going through that process with them, like I'm assuming there's some structure and guidance on how to get it out, prompts
Yeah,
and things like that.
yeah, exactly. When I introduce what poetry is, and I do it in a very short form because we could talk about it for hours. I just do a short introduction to it, and then I do a short introduction to what it means to write a letter for your mental well-being, because it's all about your mental well-being, or how to write a story for your mental well-being. After that, you can then when it's time to write, and we set up the parameters of what what everybody expects and how they want to be supported. I also mentioned that while somebody is talking, it's better to give them the whole room and the whole space and not interrupt, and let them talk when they're done talking, and then offer them some support when they're done talking. So once people wrote and they wanted to share, they can share, and there can be feedback. And with the feedback, I encourage people to be kind to each other, to be encouraging, to be uplifting, to be understanding, to be supportive to each other, because everybody, especially when people share their raw inner feelings, it's very important that they feel supported and heard.
I agree. So this
Yeah.
sounds like a sort of like a very therapeutic approach. So like what I'm hearing is that you can come to the workshop, you get 2.5 hours with the wonderful Terry Pets, right? So there's your first big bonus. And then you can actually take the time, you get your guidance, you get your support, the safe space is established, the parameters on, you know, decorum is established as well. And then you choose which option that you want to write, whether it's a letter, a poem, or a story. And the focus is talk to go inward and bring it out. Something that's happened to you or some unresolved feelings or whatnot, you're bringing it out. And then the goal then is if you want to share, that option is available. If you don't want to share, you don't have to. And then I do remember one thing that we talked about last time is that they're encouraged to release, right? Which you mentioned this already about what you did when you were in years past. is they can burn it, drown it.
Throw it. Rivers are very symbolic to me, and probably partly because I grew up next to a river, and I
Okay.
live by a river now. There's so much movement in the river. You throw something in there, and 1 second it's there, the next second it's moved on already.
Yes.
So rivers are awesome. You can also dig it in the ground. You can throw it in the wind. As long as you feel safe with how you dispose it. Some people flush it down the toilet. Whatever they decide however they decide to dispose it is fine with me. And I guess I should make a list of good ways of doing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
And
was thinking also what the way my brain works is just like you're taking something so intimate, you're putting on paper, and if it's something that holds you back or has weight over your life and then you destroy it, the act is like you're releasing it, you're letting it go
yes,
into the world, removing its power over you.
you got
Terry,
it.
how much does a workshop cost
It's $30.
for the 2.5 hours, correct?
Yes.
Um, so not an extreme amount of money for anybody who has to some, it is a lot, and to some, it's not. Um, I would recommend anybody who has sort of unresolved conflicts or feelings or things that they really need to get off their chest to actually give this a try, because it's also kind of rooted in CBT. You're bringing this out, you're dealing with it, you're addressing it on paper, and then what you choose to do after to either let it go, release it, all of that stuff. It reminds me of the therapeutic method of like just taking all of your worries and tucking it in a drawer when you go to bed at night and closing that drawer so that they don't disrupt your sleep. You know your worries are still going to be there in the morning. So when you wake up, you can pull them back out again. But it feels more sort of final by taking something, writing it out in either of those three formats, and then perhaps discussing it with a group and then destroying it to let it go. I find that really lovely. How do people sign up?
I will send you a link to my contact form.
Okay, perfect.
I can also send you a link to my page where I laid out the workshops, and people can sign up through that. I don't like releasing my email address on the internet because I've had so many unwanted emails before. I want to keep my email private to real people, not bots to pick them up.
No, and I totally get that. It's a good
Yeah.
practice, especially if you're not a large corporation and you have to field every email yourself. Um, Putting your email out in the world can definitely cause a lot of unwanted emails and primarily spam. So I will link those things in the podcast once you send them to me as well. And I think, you can also go over to worksofbeauty.ca, which is Terry's website. And it is a treasure trove of really beautiful poems. There's a lot of gorgeous photography on there because Terry is a photographer as well. That's another artistic form that she's into. And you also make home decor. Yes. So make sure you go to worksofbeauty.ca. Um, One of the things that, you filled out my form and I got um, your form first and I read it. And I have to be honest with you. When I first read it, I was like, I don't know if this person fits with my show. Okay. And then I did my normal sort of, okay, let's do some digging and figure out if what this person represents fits within my show, right? My like what I want to message. And so I went down the Terry Pets rabbit hole. And there's a lot of beautiful things about you as a human being, about the work that you're doing. Um, One observation, and this is just an observation from me to you, is I don't think that, and I think it's the modesty part, I don't think you convey in the form what you represent accurately. And when I say that is it's almost like you undersell yourself, right? And then I'm looking at your website and I'm looking at how in touch you are with just nature, with the divine feminine, um, your love of poetry, and then your love for wanting to create safe spaces for people to express themselves and find healing, which we need practitioners. You know, we have therapists, we have social workers, we have other, we need everybody to chip in and create these spaces for people to express themselves and to begin healing. And you're doing that. And I think you need to recognize your power in doing that, right? Don't undercut yourself because you are just a lovely human being. And I've gotten to have, 2 hours of your time. And I adore you. And I know that most people will adore you when they meet you, right? One of the things that I love about your website too is that it's so feminism centric, right? Let's talk about that for a second. What does that mean for you?
So firstly, let me wipe my tears because you touched me again, like you did last time. Um, when when somebody first told me that I have feminist poems, I was in a shock, and I thought, "Oh no, I'm not a feminist." But then I am a feminist, and I am in touch with that divine feminine power because that's the most comforting place for most people.
It is, yes.
Yes, and creative and comforting and supportive, and you name it, it's in there. So what I did is I started to think in terms of that feminine power, and there's so many aspects to it. And I'd like to bring it out even more in the future because I'm just getting into this rhythm of doing the things I want to do, but I don't want to do too many things all at the same time either. I'd like to focus on something, finish it, finish setting up my workshops and promoting it. And maybe I should hire you to do the promotion because you would write it so much better than I would.
Well, I don't know about that. See, but there we are. I think you're underselling yourself again. I think that your words are beautiful. And you need to stand in that, right? And one thing I'll call out is that I think for a lot of people, they have attached a negative connotation to the word feminism, right? And so when I tell someone I'm a feminist, because I am, and I'm a proud feminist, I say I'm not the man hating kind, because I don't hate men. Um, what I am is the type of person who believes in absolute equality across the board for all men and women, right? And we see now in this time a little bit more of a shift in that where women are starting to get their space at the top and there is room for women at the top. with the men, right? That room exists. So I'm drawn to anyone who any woman who stands in her truth, who takes up space and lives their lives for themselves, right? And I think that that's the one of the drawing factors that was like, okay, she definitely fits for me because you quit your you retired, sorry, not quit, you retired and you moved into a space where you are creating spaces for others to facilitate healing, right? And that's a bold move for anybody. And I commend you for doing it. And I believe, really, actually do believe that in time, as you continue to pour into yourself, you are going to see the abundance of life come to you. I believe that. Anybody who's listening, once again, it's workofbeauty.ca. I'm going to link everything in the podcast and YouTube. There's a poem on there that I read last time, but I'm not going to read this time. I'm just going to get everybody to go to your website. Is a really beautiful poem as well. This one's by Mary Seaver, and it's called To My Ancestresses. I would highly recommend everyone go read that. What's next? And there's one thing else, actually. So you have several Facebook pages and Instagram accounts, which I'll link everywhere as well so that everybody can find you. And then you did mention your Substack, which I'm not familiar with what Substack is. But I do see that it was launched 2 months ago. So for any of the people who understand what Substack is, what is Substack? Actually, I'm just going to ask you.
It's a platform for writers, but
Okay.
now I noticed it's not just about writing, but I think originally it was supposed to be about writers to share their work,
Mm-hmm.
and there's different levels. There's the free level, and then there's the paid level, because some people want to support writers if they like what they have to say, and they want to pay them. And I think there's a monthly setup and a founder sponsor and another level. I don't remember the exact levels where people can support the writers if they like what they have to say.
Okay.
And I had my first subscriber who paid me 150 Canadian US dollars to support me, which was fantastic. But then there's other levels where people just pay for one month or 2 months or whatever they want to pay. But it's not necessary because most of us share most of our work for free.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, it's for writers and content creators. They kind of focus on a certain topic or a certain area, and then they get followers, and then they get paid followers too.
I like that idea though, because I think for people like us, people who are creatives, it's so hard to make money from your creative endeavors, right? Any artist will tell you this. And having like a platform such as that would allow, because there are a lot of people out there who would like to contribute to give a one-off payment or subscribe, right? To show that, if you like somebody's work, buy their work. Because what you're doing when you're buying their work or when you're subscribing to their work or when you're signing up for a workshop, you are allowing them to continue to create, one, continue to do what they're doing. And so in Terry's particular situation, and even in mine, by supporting the people that you like, you're allowing them to continue and create. And in Terry's part, you're also allowing every time someone signs up to one of your workshops, they're creating sustainability for you, but they're also creating opportunities for so many others. That $130 payment for a 2.5 hour workshop where they get to facilitate healing and do so either privately or publicly in a safe space, that's also contributing to the opportunity for countless others to be able to do this weeks, months, years down the road. So excellent. So thank you for explaining Substack to me. Um, and I think that that's fantastic. Terry has a book out, A Piece of Her Heart, and it is a book of poetry. You can get it pretty much everywhere in ebook form, but you can also get it in paperback on Amazon. So I'll link that as well. Terry, what's next for you?
Well, I'm going to visit one of my oldest friends who wants to see me. She's
Okay.
93 years old, and she is in Hungary, and she's like a mother to me.
Okay.
I'm going to see her next Thursday on the 29th of February, and I'll be spending lots of time with her. And then I'm also hoping to still continue to be able to set up my behind the scenes stuff for the workshops and my writing and everything else. I just need to mention that I also have a free ebook for people who are in grief. And I
Okay.
should send you a link to that as well. And I'm making notes here as we speak to make sure I send you all the links and everything that I need to send you.
Perfect. So everyone, if you want to support a lovely poem, well, I lost my words. A lovely writer of poetry, someone who's trying to create safe spaces for people to heal, head over to the links that are in the description and look at all the different ways that you can support Terry on this journey. Um, Terry, I want to thank you so much for coming back and doing this interview with me. Um, it was I felt so sad, last time because I thought, last time our interview was also very good, very personable. And I was just devastated to know that it had not worked out. But this time I can tell that we're all good. And, we talked about in our last interview as well about just technology and learning how to make things work and all of that stuff, and how we're on our own in that space to try and make it work and figure it out. But yes, thank you so much for being here with me again today. I really appreciate it. Enjoy your trip to Hungary. And I'm going to keep an eye out on what keeps coming for Terry.
Awesome. It's been a pleasure being here again. And even though we had to redo it, it seems like we were meant to connect again.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah. Thank you for everything, CK, and I'm wishing you all the best.
Thank
And
you.
I hope to stay in touch with you because I feel drawn to your heart. It's a beautiful, beautiful heart.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We'll be in touch for sure.
All right.
Thank you to everyone at home for tuning in to Poddin My Noggin. Until next time.